I was like, you're such a liar. Like, this is your son. These are the things he's doing. This was not her pursuing him. This was him pursuing her. And
a 43-year-old man, his dad came and slept with him. I'm sorry.
Sent me. I reached out to kind of both of them, but I didn't want to blow them up. It's 2:00 in the morning, right? So I ended up seeing that the sister-in-law was on Facebook Messenger, and it was game day in Lubbock. So dumb. But they get up and they tailgate. And so I was like, hey, when you're up, like, could you shoot me a message? And I basically just was like, I don't know how to even say this, but, like, I can't tell this to my friends, because if I call somebody that's my friend or my parent, like my dad, they'll never forgive him. Like, I don't know what to do. I'm a week away from this wedding. Like, I'm 38 years old. Like, how embarrassing.
It shouldn't be embarrassing for you, but I understand how you feel. But were there any feelings that you, like, did you ever think, like, I should just go ahead and marry him?
Oh, 100%. I think I thought, like, how could I fix, like, how could I justify that this has happened, and that he is, you know, it really was just like a vulnerable moment, and
you're probably thinking about Keller as honestly, well.
Like hindsight, I look back and I go, oh my gosh, like, I should have driven there today. Like, how insensitive of me that, like, his friend has passed away and I didn't go, like, comfort him. And
but were you working and stuff?
Yeah, I was.
And getting ready for your wedding?
I was going over there the next morning, and he was with friends and family.
Yeah.
And so, like, and I had already seen him earlier in the day. But, I mean, I think I was just trying to come up with all the reasons, like, why this would be happening. So, basically, his sister-in-law was like, hey, you have every right to ask all of these questions. And, like, I would want to go through his phone. And, like, we didn't share, he didn't even have a passcode on his phone, but I never questioned him. Like,
you never had feeling of, like,
never, honestly,
that he was shady or anything like that?
Here I go, and this is going to be mean again. And I am not vain. I have been fat, and I've been not in my prime. Listen, Hagen used to tell me all the day,
Stop
like,
it.
Mom,
no,
you are out of his league. Like,
Hagen did?
Hagen used to tell me.
He's basically telling you, like,
time, you are out of his league.
Not cute. Hagen's telling you.
And
he's
so
not good looking.
I think beautiful girls date guys sometimes that are average, and looks are not everything.
And if you know Hagen and know how sweet he is, so to know that he was saying
there are memes out there all over that are like talking about, like, they think that they're safe, and then they still cheat on you, and you're like, what the heck? So anyways, no, I never ever thought that, because I thought he just, like, I just thought he adored me. And I was like, look, I'm hot, I'm successful, I am a hard worker, like, I'm funny,
a great mom.
I'm a great catch, I'm a great mom, like, I'm family oriented, like, I'm all of these things. and you know what? I believe that. I bring that to the table. So, like, for you worked for your parents, and, like, this is real intertwined, and I don't want to get into, like, the nitty gritty of it, but, like, financially,
they have a say so.
You weren't, like, you were asking your parents to help support basically the situation. Anything that we did, his parents were going to have to approve. Like, he had kind of let himself go. Physically, he wasn't the cutest guy, but, like, he was a drinker. He has anxiety. He was a smoker. Like, there was just a lot of, like, he wasn't that confident.
You were like,
person that I
over
thought.
Here neglecting, like, what I think is important.
And I think it started out as this act of, like, I'm all of these
things
and I'm going to be this. And he was like, I'm going to come to Keller's games. Like, I'm going to be a part of this. Like, the more time that would go on, like, they'd be sowing wheat, and he didn't get up early enough, so he couldn't make it to stuff. And I'm like, look, I'm not trying to be in a relationship to go to all these things for my kid alone. And it's not that I'm, but it's important. And, like, you're marrying me, which means you're marrying my child. And so
you have to prioritize
you have
it.
To make that important to you as
you don't
well.
Want to sit at the games by yourself when you have a person. Like, you don't want to sit there.
Your friends are like, where is he? And it's like, he works for himself, and he has the ability to get up work early. And, like, sometimes there's weather, and there are things that make it where you can't always be around. But, like, you're choosing to not be there. You know, I've been dating Boston boy since, call it December. He has not missed a tournament yet of Killers. Like, he's had to leave some games early and, like, this past weekend. But he makes such an effort to be at things. And even just, like, the first one, we were barely dating. And Keller had, like, fish fry tickets. It's so silly. And something else. And he Venmo'd me. And he Venmo'd me extra. And he was like, no. He was like, I want to support him just like you would my kids. Like, these are our kids. Like, these are what is important to me. And so it's like, there was all this talk from Aaron of what he wanted to be, but then he really
never
wasn't.
would do it.
So when the time came,
so you only had 1 week to make this. Well, you didn't even have a week to make the decision.
I was like,
you had pressure to basically make it kind of quick because it's like, I need to let vendors know.
Yeah.
I need to let
people that
friends
flights,
and flights and everybody. Basically, I'm going to have to expose this ish to, like, how long did you give yours? How long did it take you to make the decision? A day, 2 days?
I drove out there the next morning early. I loaded my car up like I was planning that wedding. I loaded it up to take things out there. I actually drove to his parents' house, and I was so mad. I was like, I'm not fucking doing this by myself. You wanted this. You've put us in this. Like, you're not going to sit at home and watch a football game while I'm doing all this shit by myself. So I show up at his parents' house, and I did tell him, you need to tell your parents what's going on because I cannot pretend. It is all over my face. Like, that is me. And when your mom asked me what's wrong, I'm going to let it loose. And I was like, you need it. And so he swore to me that he would. He was begging. I mean, he begged.
That's my thing right now, too, is it's like, I'm never going to lie to somebody for you because I did that in my marriage for a long time. And so that's big to me. It's like, if you do it, people are probably going to know. My core people are probably going to know so that they could give me great advice and that they can, like, help me through it. I'm not going to do it by myself. And then you shouldn't have done it. If you want me to lie about it, then don't do that.
And I feel like that, you know, there are things that obviously you've been in a marriage and now you're in a relationship where you don't share every detail of it,
But if you're crushed over something,
and that's too big not to.
You need support.
So I didn't call Risa because I knew she'd be like, I told you. She's like, I hate him. I told you I never liked him. She was the first one. But even some of my other really good friends. So basically I went to his parents and his mom. I'll never forget. This was
Had he actually told them?
Was my moment.
Or did he kind of tell them?
He's like laid up on the couch and his mom comes outside with me. And we're going to go to the venue, which is like 15 miles from where they live. And not his mom, but he and I. And she walks outside with me while he's getting dressed. And she says to me, he is just taking this so hard. He couldn't sleep last night. He cried all night. His dad finally came downstairs and slept with him because he just was so upset. And I was like, oh, I bet he was. And I'm like, that motherfucker didn't tell his parents why. He sat there and let them believe he was crying over his friend, which I'm sure he was very sad about. But the reason he was crying...
Wait, his dad slept with him?
He came down there and laid with him and slept in the room with him.
I need my red flag.
I'm telling you. And so...
A 43-year-old man, his dad came and slept with him. I'm sorry.
Sent me... He was 44, by the way, at that time.
I could not do it.
It sent me over
the
edge. So we drive to the venue, and I remember him, like, reaching over to, like, touch my hand, and I was like, don't touch me. And then we just get to the place. I start unloading stuff. I'm mad. And then I walk outside on the back patio of the venue, and I just was like, okay, Katie, like, maybe you can do this. Like, you can do this. And I sat down on the concrete, and I laid there. It was such a beautiful day, and I was just like, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And we got back in the car, and we were going to drive back into town, which is like 30 minutes from the venue. We were going to take, we had stuff at his dad's office in town that we had been storing, and we were going to go back. And on the way there, it just hit me.
You.
And I was like,
no.
If I were to, I just started questioning things. And then as we got closer to the office, I said, if I were to go through your phone right now, would I find anything that made this worse? And he said, no, absolutely not. Like, but he kind of got a little defensive, but he's like, no. So we pull up to the office, and I said, well, then I want your phone. And he immediately just starts, like, you could see the panic, like when someone has your phone, and you're like, I had never looked at his phone. And so all of his social media was like wiped. No messages, period. There was nothing.
He deleted everything.
Yeah. So that was the first. But you know me, I'm like, I'm a girl, and I'm not giving up that easy.
Like, I'm going to go to recently deleted.
And I did.
That's what my brain would say.
And I did. And he's so dumb because he doesn't have a teenage kid that he's going through their messages. So I go, and I'm recovering all these messages. I recover one from about a week prior where we had all been in Fort Worth, and Keller had a baseball tournament, and Keller and I stayed one night down in the Stockyards, and then we stayed in a hotel in the city he was at, and Aaron stayed with his parents, which that was another thing, because I finally had to say for that tournament, like, it's easier to disappoint me than it is your parents, because he was choosing. So he came to a couple of games but went back. And then there was a picture that I had taken of he and one of his friends that he sent to a girl from Lubbock. That was ongoing. Not even
took it?
Not even the same girl. And then it just spiraled. And so, of course, I screenshot and send them to myself. So I had, like, finally, like, told him to get out of my car because he was, like, hovering. And he goes, how long are you going to do this? And I was like, as long as it takes. Want. Like, whatever I need to be comfortable. Life. Like, and honestly, if someone wanted you to be convinced that they had nothing to hide, you would be like, hey, do whatever. The thing about me
is I'm like, hey, here, you know, I'm, like, so open when my kids come grab my phone.
All the time.
You know, my kids are always on my phone, or Same. I want you to know, like,
Same.
I don't really just want to be honest. I want to be transparent.
Yeah.
And be like, I would never, I don't want to be in a relationship where you're like, let me get, you know, but if I had to make that person feel great, go have at it, have fun, you know, look at me and my friends talk crap about, I don't know.
It's just the fact of, like,
just family and friends, and, you know, there's nothing to hide.
It's like, I don't want someone going through my phone in my sleep.
It probably does feel kind of,
but at the same time, like, one, you put yourself in this predicament, but two, like, I had never ever looked at his stuff, but I have, like, the same policy. Though. Like, everybody knows my password, everything.
Yeah,
Lord, my key is on my porch, and everybody in my town knows. If you want to come go through all my things, like, I'm an open book, and I'm the same way. When you have a 14-year-old kid, they come snatch your phone and look at your stuff, and it's like, Keller would be the first person to tell somebody if I was doing something. He'd be like, my mom. But anyways, it basically, when I saw that, I was like, get out of my car. I was like, get out. And he was like, well, actually, I think I like quoted whatever was one of the messages. And he was like, what? And I was like, oh, I can't remember what he said. It was like something about her parents. And I have to tell you, she wasn't even that cute. She wasn't even cute. And I was just like, okay. And it's so weird for me because I was so mad. I, like, chunked his stuff out of my car. and his dad, I don't even care about this, but his dad is an attorney, and his office is off the square in this small town. And so he wouldn't, at first he was, like, in my car and wouldn't get out. And I was like, if you don't get out of my car right now, I'm going to call the cops, and they are going to come to your dad's office. And you know he doesn't want that. Like, they're very big on image. And so he finally got out of my car, and I just threw the rest of his shit out the window, and I took off. And then I felt bad because I know. So I felt bad.
Why do we do that?
So
Why do we feel bad?
Go around like a couple blocks. I go back, and I'm like, look, his parents are older. They're in their 80s. It's Sunday. Texas was playing, and that's his dad's favorite team. And so I was like, if you want to ride, they live 20 minutes in the country. So, but here's the other thing. I think I was like, he's going to lie to his parents about what happened. And so the whole way to his house, he was like destroying this Diet Coke bottle, and like he kept hitting my dash. And I was never scared of him. He never like made me feel uncomfortable in that way. But in that moment, he was losing his mind, like toddler tantrum, hysterical. And I kept thinking,
sorry, buddy,
he's going to grab my steering wheel and like make us wreck. I really felt that way. He was losing it so much.
And you don't know what he was thinking in the moment.
You can't do this to me. Like, And I just kept thinking, as a 44-year-old man whose parents are super involved in his life, and this is about to rock their world, he doesn't really care what he has to, like, what does he have to lose? So I didn't cry. I just was like, no, you did this. You made these choices. You chose this. You did this, not me. Like, we're done. And I was just driving and trying to be as calm as I could.
Had your mom voice on.
I mean, I was. It was very like, this is you. And I was so emotionless at that point.
It's shocking.
We pulled up to his parents' house and we got out. And I walked in and they were like, oh, hey, and you immediately could see something was wrong. And they were like, what's going on? And he goes, oh, we're just having a little trouble. And I go, no, we're not having a little trouble. I go, we're not getting married. And they were like, wait, what? So they like stop what they're doing and they come over. And basically I just said like, hey, this girl messaged me in the middle of the night last night. And she was like, are you sure it's not just a friend? And Aaron's like, yeah, it's just a friend. And I was like, the fuck? I mean,
you're like, what?
I lost
you
it.
Did?
The F word came out of my mouth like every 10 seconds. And I was like, you're such a fucking liar. Like, this is your son. These are the things he's doing. Like, this was not her pursuing him. This was him pursuing her. And he did this. Like, no.
Put this off on her.
And I was like, you know what? I was like, I've been through this once before. I married someone that I didn't trust, and I said, I will never do that again. I said, why would I start a marriage out when I don't trust this person and there's already been, like, infidelity? No. Or I said, I have a 13-year-old son I have to think about, and I would never put him in this situation. Never. And I said, I'm really sorry. And I walked out the door. And they followed me.
That's what I was about to say. Did they follow you?
And I cried at that point. Then when I pulled out of the driveway, I just broke down. And I called my friend. And I remember pulling over because there's not good service. Like, you go through the Wagner Ranch, and it's like nothing out there. And so I pulled over, and I just lost it. And I was so mad. And I wasn't even sad. I just remember thinking, like,
the nerve.
This person just did me the biggest favor. Like, what a coward. He was an imposter. Like,
being married to a man that couldn't tell his parents the truth or be there for you or touch him or
it's everything.
All of the above.
So no. And it's like I cried that day and I never cried again. Mm-hmm. I just was so grateful. I got up the next day. That was Saturday. I got up and I went to church.
Were you relieved?
I was so relieved. I went to church with my friend Melinda and one of her friends who is widowed. Like, her husband committed suicide. She has a horrible story. He had all these mistresses and it was a terrible ending for him. And she was so sweet. I did actually cry that day. She came up to me and she said, are you so excited for the wedding? And Melinda and I just started laughing, but I started crying. And she goes, oh, no, I'm so sorry. And I was like, and I say all of her story to say, like, if anybody could be, like, embarrassed or, like, know how it feels to feel like those intimate parts of your life are out there and everybody sees that there's all these flaws, like, she's felt that. So I knew it wasn't from a judgmental place. It was just, like, and she wasn't that way. I just feel like she was the best person to have.
That's what I was about to say. Another perfect person.
And then
for
I
the
have
moment.
These other clients, a client of mine who has twin girls that I love, and they came up to me and they were like, they were coming to the wedding, and they were like, I think I might get a new dress. Do you think I should get this one? And Melinda's just elbowing me, and she goes, lie. And I was like, I think just wear something you have in your closet. And I was like, oh my gosh, maybe coming to church was the wrong thing to do. And I couldn't tell you what that sermon was. But worship music was like the best thing for me that day. And it still makes me.
Did it make you cry?
Yeah. And it's not like a sad thing. It is such a place of gratitude.
Because I think it was a blessing that you were like,
oh my gosh.
You did not have a baby, get married. Like, what a blessing that, it sucks. It's the week of your wedding, but you didn't spend your life in this situation.
I used to tell people, in regard to Aaron, like, I could have never dated him 10 years ago. I was too mean. He stressed me out. Like, he was difficult. And I, hindsight, think, like, I was like a mom to him. And so for me, I'm just like, I literally every day am so grateful that didn't work out.
Yeah.
And then
your whole life changed.
Everything.
So you go on TikTok. Did you plan this? Did you just think, I'm going to vent on TikTok and this is kind of funny? I'm laughing at myself. It sucks. Like, maybe somebody can relate to this, or did you just not think about it at all?
I had been making, like, I used to make videos of cows. And then I was kind of doing some of my wedding stuff just because I was bored, and obviously I was a little bit lonely maybe when I was making those.
So you're like, let's update my audience.
And so I was at work on that Monday, and I wasn't working like all day every day because of the wedding. Like, it was supposed to be kind of a slow week, and I went out in between clients, and I was just kind of trying not to, like, think about it. I mean, that sounds silly because then I was talking about it, but, like, cry. And I just made this video, and then I go back into work, and my friends start messaging me, and they're like, your video is blowing up. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm at work, so
I'm busy right now.
I went to United when I got off work, and I remember telling Risa, like, oh, maybe I'll get to, like, I don't know, like 50,000 or something. And she was like, I think you're going to get to like 100. And I was like, yeah, maybe, go, hope no one recognizes me in here, because we're small town. And I'm like, I mean, I recognize everybody
like, I hope
anyways.
I don't get too famous.
I hope nobody gets me. And so it was funny, but
your video was so, like, real. And honest. Is it still out there?
It's still out there, and I don't have it pinned on there just because I'm like, I don't want that to be.
Because maybe you're past it now. I think at some point people are like, okay, I want to move forward.
I got so many private messages from that video from women, whether they were like saying, be grateful, like, this is my life, I went through this, or, oh my gosh, how did you know? How did you have the courage to walk away? Honestly, that video was probably what kept me from being sad.
Yeah.
It was like a distraction.
And it was women
empowering
you and telling you, been there, this happened to me, I wish I would have done it. Like, I like the way women rally.
They were so supportive. Mm-hmm. I don't think I had any negative comments on that. And to me, that was...
It was probably validating.
I feel like the first few videos that I made after that obviously were in response to it or kind of on the same vibe. And after a few days, I was just like, I love makeup and I love beauty. And I was like, okay, we got to shift here because we have mutual friends, Erin and I didn't want it to be like a bash Erin thing because I'm not bitter. I'm grateful. So I'm not mad. I'm not bitter. I feel
happy. You, Erin.
So I tried to kind of make light of it, and I tried to just shift and be like, okay, we're going to go back to, I love makeup, and a lot of people commented on makeup and things that I love, and so I was like,
but who messaged you?
Well, that was a little while later, but a few weeks later, I got a message from Boston Boy
on TikTok. I didn't even know you could get messages on TikTok.
Well, you know what? I didn't used to until then. Like, I never responded. I would just send like text messages of the videos I wanted and even like forward them on there. And I had like hundreds from my friends. So it was the night before Thanksgiving, and I was up late cooking, and I was making this dumb video because I don't cook. Anybody that knows me, I mean, I do cook. I cook, but I'm not like a cook. And I was making these pies. Hagen's birthday is Thanksgiving-y, so I would always make him a separate pie. That's what he wants. And I was making green bean casserole to take to my sisters. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I don't think I got enough green beans. And the grocery store closes in 20 minutes.
Are you saying this on TikTok, or you're just thinking
I'm making a video, and this is the last video that I post. So I'm thinking this is what this guy has seen. But I'm just up late doing whatever. I run to town Keller's pulling my pies out. I come home, I get it all done, cleaned up, and I lay down and I see this message from this
Boston
person.
boy.
And I was like, well, okay. And normally I wouldn't respond to males. I didn't have any interaction because my following was predominantly women. And so this particular message was just very nice. And it just said, you know, I'm really sorry for basically what you've gone through. You're hilarious. Like, I have no idea. I think he said, I have no idea how you showed up on my For You page, but I'm glad you did. You're hilarious. Sending apologies for your recent relationship challenges. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. And I was like, I mean, I feel like that was a nice message. And he took the time to say it. And so I feel like the energy I bring off of my TikToks is nice. I want to be nice, and I don't want to be known as that person that, like, if someone says, like, oh, she's preaching, like, all these nice things, but then she's not even friendly and she doesn't respond. So I was like, thanks. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving as well. And that's it. I really was just being nice. I didn't look at his picture. I didn't look at anything. I just want to make sure I reply. I just responded. And he ends up sending one and was like, thanks, I'm in Arizona visiting my dad. The weather's whatever. It was like super random. And I was like, oh, yeah, well, it's like 50 degrees here, too. Like, in Texas. It was such a casual conversation. He started asking me about cooking, and he was like, tell me about this green bean casserole. He doesn't even like green bean casserole. He was totally hitting on me. Yeah, making conversation. He didn't really hit on me, but casserole. Then we just kind of chatted throughout the day, and like really very minimally in the beginning. But then after I finished lunch at my sister's house, we were all kind of sitting around scrolling, and I kind of started interacting a little bit. And he made reference to Christmas Vacation, which I've never watched in its entirety. Like,
really?
No.
What?
I've seen like bits and pieces 100 times, but I've never sat and watched it. And he loves that movie. His kids love that movie. And so he said something about Aunt Bethany's Jell-O mold, but I just was like, sent like the green face, like the sick face. I was like, oh yeah, like, and he asked me like, how would you rate your dinner? He was clearly trying to carry on a conversation, and I was really not reciprocating. I mean, I was being nice, but I wasn't really giving much to the conversation. And then when I got home, I turned my TV on, and Christmas Vacation was on, and they were sitting at the dinner table, and I was like, you'll never believe what I just turned my TV on to. And so we just kind of started casually talking. We talked about a little bit about each of our kids, not like in detail, but like how I have this many kids. He had kids in college, and he was like, oh, you know, your son is tall. Actually, I don't even know where that came into play, but we just casually chatted. Oh, I think I asked if he was from Texas or if his dad retired to Arizona, because I just assumed. Anyways, he was like, actually, my dad's from Boston, and I'm from Boston originally. And I was like, oh, okay. He'll see this and be like, oh, he knows that I've said. Anyways, basically, we just continued talking, chatting, and he kind of asked for my number, but not like indirectly. Mm-hmm. And my friend Amy was like, you've given worse people your number. Like, why don't you? I read her the whole conversation. I read her the whole conversation, and she was like, this is such good conversation. Like, he's not hitting on you. He's never said anything about your appearance. He's just like, you can tell he's smart. She was like, give him your number, and if you don't like him, block him. And so I end up giving it to him. He's like, great, I'm going to text you. So he sends a text, and then there are two things that I think are funny. One, he's short. We just measured in the closet of his pantry, and I swear whoever did his line, they went like that with his. He's shorter than me, which is fine. But on a shallow level, like if you were on like a dating app, that's people miss out on people. I'm going to say that now because you would swipe all the time, based Katie. Off of looks. And
I say this, like, don't box yourself into a height or a race or blonde hair or this eye color or whatever. I'm like, you are missing out on maybe like the best chemistry of your life. You know what I mean?
100,000%.
And I think that, you know what I mean?
100,000%. And I do think you have to be attracted to people.
I do too, but I think that if you have the chemistry, you are like when I met Gabriel, like there was just almost like a magnetic
100%.
pull and fun and butterflies and fireworks
100%.
and all that I had never felt before. And I had never necessarily like I've never had like a type, you know.
Yeah,
so I've never boxed myself in because I'm so attracted to like personality, like just like people in general. So I'm like, I totally would have missed out if I would have boxed myself.
He has to be 6'3".
Yeah, like what?
Well, and you had a tall guy. I'm
yeah, like they're the worst.
Same.
And I'm sorry, but I tell people all the time, like they're the worst. Like that. I'm not saying every tall person is the worst. But if you, I don't know, I have friends that, you know, specifically date like this and up and they're not getting, you know, good quality men.
I wish I could remember. I heard it on the radio or the podcast, and it was like the percentage of men that are over 6'2" or 6 foot. And it's pretty low. Let's call it 30%.
That's such a great thing to Google.
How many of them are single? And then how many of them are in your area? And then how many of them fit the personality thing?
So you're already,
and it's like you're at a disadvantage.
All these people.
It's so silly. And I can say that because I was one. And it's not. I never had like strict requirements, but I am. He says I'm not 5'11" anymore. We measured, and I'm shrinking, but I am tall. And so I think as a woman, you don't want to feel bigger than a guy. Like you want someone that makes you feel.
Like Meg is almost
feminine.
6 foot or 5'11", and
hard.
she likes to wear heels sometimes.
Yeah. Well, so we end up having the best conversation, and one of the first things he was talking about my son, and he goes, "Your son is really tall." I go, "Yeah, we have really good genetics over here." I go, "By the way, how tall are you?" And he goes, 5'10". I thought 5'10" and some change. I don't know what he said, and I said, like a solid 5'10". Or maybe he said 5'9". Shit, I don't know, but it was short. And I was like a solid 5'9", or like, and oh yeah, it was 5'9".
Are we tiptoeing?
And I said 5'9" and some change, or like, and he goes 5'9", almost 5'10", I think is what he said.
Yeah.
And then he said, "But if you're looking for a guy that's 6 foot, I'm not him." And in my mind, the whole time I was thinking, I'm not looking for anyone. Like I'm 3 weeks from calling off a wedding. Like I'm a man hater. Yeah. And I kind of laughed, but then I said, well, the bigger question is, and if you go back and ever watch one of my videos, there's a video I said of like reasons I'm better off without Aaron. And I was like, I get my side of the bed back. I have my whole closet. Like it was so silly. And then one of them was he takes baths, and men that take baths are super feminine and weird and like, so red flag.
Oh, great.
So I said to Boston boy, I said,
"Do you take baths?"
I said, the bigger question is, do you take baths? And he was like, I don't have anything against baths. I generally
like, how do I answer this question?
He goes, I don't know where you're going with this. He goes, I don't generally take baths. He goes, I do have a big bathtub that I look at every day. And I was like, you clearly haven't made it through that video, because he had told me he watched several of my videos. And anyways,
so he doesn't take baths. I just can't imagine a guy.
I've never seen him take
in a bathtub.
Never seen him take a bath.
A bubble bath.
All the time. I would wake up in the middle of the night because he couldn't sleep.
That would give me the worst ick ever. If I saw that, I would really freak out. I would be like, I'd be done.
And I feel like when you tell a guy,
do not let me walk in, you be soaking in a bubble bath.
I feel like when I told him that, he should have immediately never taken a bath again.
Yeah.
Like that would have been enough for me to be like,
yeah,
no.
But he just loved them that much.
It's just, I don't know. Anyways, so that kind of trended, and we just had the funnest, best conversation. And so
that was Thanksgiving-ish. And then
that was
December.
The day after Thanksgiving.
So where are y'all now?
I'm waiting on him to pop the question. Not really, but kind of. There's
truth to these jokes, you know?
We went on our first date, and I have to tell you, he drove up to me, which is like 2.5 hours away. We had the best date, and he planned everything. He was super thoughtful, got a hotel, didn't like push anything.
Were you ever like, am I being love bombed? Or did you just feel
not
different?
Really. No, really, I didn't. From the second that we FaceTimed, I met his kids on like the first day. That was not on purpose. On FaceTime. They were home from school and they just were like popping in and out. And so very unintentional, but I just,
did you know that he was the one when you met him?
When even before I met him, I feel like I knew. Which is so wild to say. But we started FaceTiming. We would FaceTime like every day for 3 hours. He went to Mexico, and I thought, I probably won't hear from him. He's going to be busy. He's on this work trip every day except for one. And it's actually because I fell asleep. And he was so intentional about communicating, and we just were like,
I think that's so sexy, though.
It was
when people
super
are great communicators.
It was super attractive. But when I walked into the hotel, I wasn't nervous at first. And when I got ready to get out of my car, I met him there. We met at the hotel lobby that he was staying at the bar. And
you got nervous?
I got really nervous all of a sudden and was like kind of sweaty. And I walked in. I just remember he had asked me if I wanted a drink on the way. And he had ordered it, and he laid a napkin out over the top, and he was sitting in the corner by the fireplace, and I walked in, and he stood up, and he gave me the biggest hug and the biggest kiss. And I was a little bit nervous, and I told him, I was like, I just want you to like me as much as I like you. I was so excited. Anyways, we had the best time, and we did a carriage ride, and like, I just knew. I knew.
Had you ever felt that way before? If you're being honest.
Maybe a little bit.
No, like that.
But not with the foundation of that. I know that sounds not very long, but like a few weeks leading into it. Like with my ex-husband, with Rusty, like when we met, we had a chemistry. So he probably has a chemistry with everybody, but
he's very charismatic.
Yeah. He and I had a chemistry, and he was a good
He's my
salesperson.
favorite uncle.
I mean, he's a schmoozer.
He's a likable guy. Like, and I do think that he has a sweet spirit. That's what I love about him.
I could say a lot of things that I don't like about him, but I deep down believe he has good intentions. I was young.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be in love then, and he was a schmoozer. If I would have dated your Uncle Rusty longer, I probably would not have married him.
But then you wouldn't have had Keller.
Yeah, and I don't sit and
go down that road all the time.
I don't sit and question that. But, like, yes, initially we had a really strong chemistry. So for Boston Boy and I, what's different is that we have such a foundation that we've built on just in friendship and talking, not living in the same city. Like, we seriously talk to each other like several hours out of the day, and from everything from lighthearted to serious to...
Before Gabriel and I moved in together, because we lived an hour from each other, which wasn't 2 hours, but it was an hour. So, and with all of our kids, I mean, you can't just drop and be like, I want to see you. Like, you want to, and you would I would have made the drive every single day because I missed and wanted to see him. And that was like one of the hardest parts. But we just stayed on the phone for hours every single night, and we got to know like every single detail of like past, present, funny stories, friends, him describing who this person is and when I'll meet him, and this person, and you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and so,
I do.
And we would almost fall asleep on the phone together, and then text all day. And it was just ongoing all the time. And you really, when you leave them at the end of we would spend most of the weekends together if we could. I had a weird situation, so I would have to leave my house on the weekends that my kids were with their dad because he needed somewhere to stay. Yeah. And so I had to physically pack a bag and leave my house. And so at first we weren't going, to his house or anything like that. I would go stay with a friend, or I would go get a hotel, or me and Risa would go get a hotel, or just try to something, but eventually at one day I was like, I'm coming to your house, and he was like, oh, you're coming to my house,
Yeah.
but I was like, well, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, I need to like come to your house, so
it's kind of similar in some ways because he has a son that lives with him full time, and then I have my son, and I pretty much have Keller all the time. So when he would come to town, he was like, I'm gonna come to you, and he would get a hotel because he wasn't gonna stay at my house. But then that meant I was getting somewhere for Keller to go because his dad wasn't seeing him as often at the time, and it was just hard. So early on, when you met him on New Year's Eve, I kind of pushed that a little bit, but not really. He just, I think, never wanted me to have to drive down here, and so I was like, what are you doing for New Year's? And I mean, we were early dating, like a few weeks in, and he was like, well, I would love for you to come. And so I ended up meeting his daughter, who I didn't think was going to be there. And then his son ended up staying with a friend. And so a lot of things kind of happened quickly. But I don't feel like I was being love bombed. But, this is, I don't know if.
I don't think that you were either.
Well, I had an ex of his reach out and try to, like, tell me, like, he
of course
was not great. And it was, she's kind of been relentless in some of this. And to her, I don't even know. His situation with his divorce and her was very different than the situation now. I mean, it's been a lot more time has passed, and he hadn't really dated, and so there was a little tension, and like, I don't know if I should really say. I don't want to say too much without saying, but like,
different phases.
She was probably coming from a part of her that felt sincere about wanting to prevent me any heartache.
Clearly,
but, like,
she was
our
hurt.
situation is different, and like, we've all been the girl that didn't get picked.
Yeah.
At some point, and you're like, what's wrong with me, and why? I do think the difference is like you have to choose to move on, and like, you've given someone some warning, and then like you're not gonna go on and tell your ex's details, just like I wouldn't say rest your errand. Like, I did kind of talk about it, but I'm not gonna reach out to someone who's dating and be like, you better watch out. Like, you'll figure it out. And like, and if someone asked me, then I would for sure be like,
I'm the same.
Oh, this is what happened, but I'm never gonna go out of my way. Like, maybe it's not the same circumstance. And anyway, so did I feel like I was being love bombed? I feel like there was a part of me that after that was like, maybe she was a little cuckoo. Like, she was relentless, made multiple fake profiles to like message. And so then I was like, maybe I do need to like just check some things out and like try to be. Anyways, he basically said to me, whatever you need to do to make yourself feel comfortable. Because I had messaged this girl on TikTok. He doesn't follow people. He has like no followers, no following. It's really just his kids.
He just like scroll.
But there was this one girl, and she was from the Alito area. And since he's not from here, I was like, oh my gosh, like maybe he dated her. Like maybe he just forgot he had her on there. So I, crazy girl, got on there and messaged her and was like, hey, look, I know you don't know me.
You did?
I did. This was before I came for New Year's. Yeah.
What'd she say?
And I just said, like, I know you don't know me, but so-and-so we've been on a couple of dates, and his ex reached out to me trying to warn me, and I don't know like how well you know him, but I just wondered if maybe you could offer some insight, and I'm really sorry if this is like weird. I don't mean to be like, I just. And she was so nice to me. However, she didn't answer me initially, and then when she did answer me, I kind of forgot I'd even really sent it because he and I had already talked so much that I just really didn't feel that vibe. But we were on our way to dinner on New Year's, and he said, hey, I want you to know anything that you need to do to make yourself feel comfortable, like, please do it. Like, if you want to talk to my ex-wife, if you want to, like, whatever you need to do. He's like, I'm so committed to this relationship and seeing where things go.
Didn't that make you feel good?
Anything you need to do. And I was like,
did anything come to mind that you wanted to do, or just him saying that?
I knew when he said that.
You were like, I need to tell you?
No, he knew. I knew he knew.
Oh,
and so I just started laughing, and I go, I'm guessing you know. And he goes, I do. And it was his ex-wife's sister-in-law's best friend.
But I think, like, from what you had been through, that seems like kind of normal.
She was super nice, and she goes, hey, I get it. Like, as a divorced mom, she goes, I didn't even realize, and he said, I didn't even realize I had her on there. But she was like, as a divorced mom, like, I get it. She's like, get in the Are We Dating the Same Guy page? Like, no. And she said, he's so-and-so. My best friend's sister-in-law was his wife. And, like, while things didn't work out between them, you know, that doesn't mean anything. Just because you're divorced doesn't mean you should write someone off. And
well,
she
that's
said
good.
He's a
good feedback
guy and an even better father. You know, like, I hope, good luck, basically. She was super nice about it. And I've just never, ever since then, like, I've been like, no. Like, his actions speak so loudly over what any person could say. And that's where I get into, like, if he weren't who he was, like, it would already be evident. And this is kind of it's not an overshare, but yesterday was Father's Day. And we had, I went and did some stuff with Keller. He had stuff with baseball. And then we came back and his kids are all home from school. And I walked in and there was a note on his bed. And I thought he had left it there. And I was like, I'm just nosy. And so I thought maybe he left it and I was like going to read it. They were all outside grilling and cooking. And
you're like, what is this?
Well, I knew it was like for him, but I thought maybe he was just like, oh, like.
So what was it?
I'm so nosy. It was a note from his daughter. Well, it was just open. It was like laying there. So I thought he had already read it. And it's this 3-page note from his daughter, basically just saying like how much she loved him and how much she appreciated him, how much she looked up to him, what kind of a dad, and how he set this bar so high. I was literally in tears. And I was like, there is no faking
that
a person. No, not at all. And so I walked outside after I changed and I was like, that note from T, like, oh my gosh.
He's
and
like, what note?
Like, what? And I was like, I go, did you cry? And he was like, what? And then anyways.
You read it first, Katie.
I said, I'm so sorry. I thought you left it there, like, thinking, like, oh, she'll see that, and she'll be like, oh, my gosh, that's so sweet. And once I started reading, I couldn't stop because it was so good. And so he hadn't read it for a little while, and then she came in, and we had eaten, and she goes, did you read my letter, Dad? And he goes, and I had told him, but I think he knew he was going to cry, so he was, like, holding out, and he goes, no, I will in a minute. And I was in there at that point. We had cleaned up, and I was sitting on the couch, and I heard him, like, come out and the two of them talking, and, oh, he just lost it. And then after, she doesn't know this, but, like, after he left, or after she left, she was going to watch Love Island, he just kind of broke down, and I'm like,
yeah,
you can't fake that. He is such a solid guy, and the best part is how good of a dad he is. Like, that's such a hot thing.
It is.
I'm like, I don't care.
It's almost healing to you to see that in them.
Yeah.
In a weird way. Like, I see Gabriel, like, parenting his daughters and the love that he gives and the support that he gives. And he's always there and he's solid. And the way that they talk about him and, like, oh, I could never have done any of this without him. And, you know, you're like, well, I had the dad that I had. Well, I have the dad that I have, which I love my dad.
Yeah.
But to finally see that for them is, like, really nice.
I've never, like, same for me. Like, my dad's different than your dad in probably a lot of ways. They're polar opposites in personalities. But my dad worked a lot, and he had three girls, just like, you know. And so I just feel like there wasn't that same connection maybe that boys, I know that, but like I'm always a little envious of girls that have that.
Yeah.
I love my dad relationship because I feel like my dad made us strong and independent, whether it was through him being tough on us or I don't know, neglect is not the right word. No, not neglect, but like my mom raised us.
Yeah,
really,
and that was pretty typical then, you know.
Providing, so I think that was pretty
typical. But when you see these girls now that have the softer side and the supportive and the crying and the,
it was him like saying like in her letters, she just basically said like, you always make me feel beautiful. Like girl dads have like a different spot for them than with boys. Like, he was like, oh, the boys will be fine. But he's like, I want her to have someone who loves her and respects her and
that's her foundation for who she's going to choose.
Her. And so I'm like, it's so evident.
You do have to set the bar.
Yeah.
That was big in my counseling session for when my divorce was. One of the last questions my counselor asked me was, do you want this to be your daughter's standard?
Yeah.
And I was like, no. Or do you want your son to
see that
to
and
be this way that he treats women? And
that's what I told him for the boys. I was like, I know you say, oh, the boys will be fine. I'm like, no, but
you're
setting the example for what kind of father and husband they're going to be for them. And so, yeah, when you think about how different life could be and
how
having
different
someone
would
that you're
your
just
life
like tolerating,
be
like
today?
This person today on Father's Day got up and cooked breakfast for everybody, and everything was about everybody else all day. And today got up, did a meeting, actually made his son breakfast, did a meeting for work. And then when I said, hey, I'm going to go meet Carrie and do this podcast, like, he was like, do you want breakfast? And I said, no, I'm really okay. And the next thing I know, I show up and he goes, I was trying to make it like a clown face. And there's like bacon and an egg for a nose. And what do you put? Oh, 2 pieces of toast for your ear and then strawberries on top. And that's the person I'm showing up to. And it's like, how could I ever be sad?
Do you think that Aaron would have made you that breakfast this morning?
In the whole time that we dated, I don't think he ever cooked breakfast for me not one time. And literally, I know that's silly. And
no, it's not silly. It's important.
He says it's bare minimum, but it's a big thing. Like, it's not about what he does for me. I mean, he just in general he just shows up and he's a good person and he's solid and like he makes me laugh. I don't know. It's just easy. And I know people are like, oh, it's not always gonna be easy. You know what? I think it can be. Yeah. I think if you both genuinely put in the effort to make the other person's life better. And I think what happens post-divorce is you've been through all the terrible things, right? And you start to really see, like, this is important and this is not. This is important and this is not.
That's so true.
And you sometimes end up in relationships with people who are so concerned with being right all the time. And that's exhausting. Like, how about I love you? And I want your life to be good, and I want mine. Like, I don't want to waste 6 hours trying to prove that I was right to you. Like, it's
you just
so
always
stupid.
have to remember what team are you on.
Yeah,
you know. And what advice would you give somebody right now that is getting married or making a big decision, and they have this gut feeling, or something's happened, and they're maybe embarrassed or worried about what people think? What's the advice?
I think life is short, and I'm from the smallest small town there ever was. Like, you can't live your life worrying about what people are going to think about the decisions that you make. Like, you have to own your own truth. You have to know who you are and just do what makes you happy. And I think if you're ever in a position where you're second guessing whether or not something is right, it's probably because it's wrong.
It's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true. That's great advice.
Yeah. Yeah. You live and you learn.
And now we have Boston Boy.
Yeah.
And now we don't think about, I mean, it seems like a lifetime ago already.
I say it all the time. It just feels like that, almost sometimes like that part of my life it didn't even happen. And so I don't question why. And I think you could be bitter, or I think you can just see all the opportunities that it brought. Like, my life is so much better right now than it could have ever been the other way.
Yeah.
And I know that.
I'm
grateful for it.
I'm happy for you, Katie.
Yeah,
so you need to tell everybody how that they can follow you on TikTok and how they can find these videos that we share. Come on, you have to share it.
My handle is, I don't even know,
yes,
Golden Hour Cattle Co. Right?
We'll link it.
I'm like, it's Golden Hour Cattle Co.
Yeah,
I think, which is a funny story. Yeah, Golden Hour Cattle Co. Go follow me. That's
Go
me.
follow her for all the day to day and all the tea. And to go back, because it's so interesting. I remember I never get on TikTok. And so Mom called me. She's like, Katie has a video that went viral. So I was like, how is Katie? And then I'm like, wait, what? And then I kept forgetting like about TikTok. And then I just went down a whole rabbit hole in there. But they're good.
Someone said the other day, she goes, what is it so I can follow you? She works with my sister. And I go, save yourself a few hours and don't. I'm teasing. I share everything from talking about raising a 14-year-old son to dating to business, makeup, beauty, just day to day. Like, and I hope it's happy for people. Yeah. But the raw part of life, like it's hard too. So,
well,
that's all.
Thank you so much, Katie, for coming.
I'm glad that was
a whole journey.
Who knew? You didn't even need anybody else to talk,
I didn't
just
need
me.
Anybody, just you. And follow us on Got Her Back Podcast, and we'll see you next Monday.
Toodaloo. Bye.